Hello. Hello and welcome, dear Ubites. Welcome to our inaugural Speakers Corner webinar organized by the WAAAUB chapter in Riyadh. A warm welcome to Mrs. Selma Uwaida, Associate Vice President for Development, Alumni Relations, and University Events at the American University of Beirut. I'm Yahya Al-Awaini, and I'm honored to serve as the president of the WAAAUB chapter in Riyadh. The committee and I are extremely happy and honored you were able to join us today. This webinar and all our future webinars are inspired by the AUB historic tradition of Speakers Corner. This tradition started in the 70s, and after many years of silence, it was revived back in 2010 by the University Student Faculty Committee. It is indeed a highly anticipated and special moment when AUB students from different backgrounds and mindsets used to come together every month under the shadows of the West Hall Big Banyan tree. The open-air discussions, free speeches, and debates were non-political and non-religious and focused mainly on important pressing issues for the students. This was an opportunity for AUBites to discuss not only how to improve their student life, but also how can we as AUB students have a positive impact on our respective communities and overall society. I am proud to announce that we are the first WAAAUB chapter among the 64 chapters worldwide to export this cherished tradition outside the AUB campus. Our sessions and topics will be inspired by the spirit of AUB and aligned with Saudi Vision 2030, a vision that we as an alumni body in Saudi Arabia are an integral part of. Now, when it comes to the chapter's continuous support of the alumni body, it is worth mentioning that in just 4 months, our efforts on many levels have been fruitful and had a direct positive impact on many. When it comes specifically to job hunting, the created job vacancies being shared with all of you almost on daily basis led to many interviews being conducted and successful placements done in different cities and companies in Saudi Arabia. In this exceptional chapter, we promise and we deliver with concrete actions and results. So, as you have requested during our different interactions, the topic of today's webinar is job hunting and career development in Saudi Arabia. We have with us today renowned speakers and industry experts who will be sharing their experiences and insights, and you are welcome to engage with them on the chat box during their talks and also during the live Q&A session. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank the AUB Alumni Relations Office in Beirut for their continuous support and dedication. Before we dive into our recorded webinar, I would like you to meet AUB alumni Gracia Ahmedi, a member of the chapter's committee, and she will be helping with the moderation of the webinar, starting with introducing our hardworking committee. Please don't hesitate to stay in communication with our committee members and share with them ideas and potential projects that could benefit us all and serve our alma mater. This chapter is for you. It is your home away from home. Thank you.
Thank you, Yahya, for the very nice and positive introduction. Hello, everyone. We are so happy for those of you who made time to join us. We feel so proud with the efforts put forth with our community members to create not a chapter in Riyadh, but a new sense of community among our alumni. Allow me first to introduce our committee members of the Riyadh chapter of AUB. Yahya Al-Awaini, our current president, Mr. Bish, our honorary president, Karen Araman, our vice president, excuse me, Akram Ashama'a, our treasurer, and Maya Hilal, our communication officer. I'd also like to thank the continuous support of our committee members of the committee, starting with Mrs. Alma Zaim, Mr. Badr Al Amoudi, Ilyas Abu Samra, Saeed Surbey, Tariq Badarani, Yusuf Sandali. I would like to ask all of our esteemed members and attendees to mute their microphones because I think some of the echoes are being heard as we commence. Introducing our first esteemed speaker, Mr. David Metta. David Metta's career is a blend of academic and professional achievements. As a Sloan Fellow from London Business School, he holds a postgraduate degree in strategy leadership, complemented by a master's in psychology from Bangor University in UK, which focuses on mindfulness-based approaches to well-being and mental health. His academic credentials further include an EMBA and mechanical engineering degree from the American University of Beirut, along with diplomas in scenario, future programming, and leaders corporate governance from Oxford. Professionally, David has held leadership positions in the automotive, health, and insurance sectors with prominent companies in the MENA region, including, but not exclusive to, General Motors, Porsche, VW Group, and AIG. He has taught a variety of courses in strategic management, business ethics, mindful leadership, and collective intelligence at esteemed universities in Lebanon and France and to corporate clients. Currently serving as the Career Management Director, David leverages his extensive knowledge to guide students and executives in their career paths. His diverse education and professional experiences equip him well for understanding the nuance of technical, managerial, organizational aspects of business, reflecting his commitment to fostering healthy and sustainable organizations. Mr. Metta, we're happy you're here and the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Gracia, for this lovely introduction, and thank you, Yahya, and thank all the committee members for organizing such a great event. I just want to tell you that I am a person that knows Riyadh very well. I lived there almost 15 years, working with Al Jumeirah, and then working with Samaco, and working in the medical equipment with Al Safe Group also, and with other companies. So it's for me, I'm when I talk about with people in Saudi Arabia, I truly feel like very much connected, and it's the city that I love the most because as they say in Arabic, well, al-habib al-awwali, something like this. I went and lived in Jeddah, I lived in Dammam, but my first experience in Saudi Arabia was actually in Riyadh. So without further ado, I just want to introduce the topic today, which is strategies for handling career transitions. Now, besides, the maybe academic credentials or experience that I have, I passed through a career transition and a major one when I took a sabbatical, and I was in Saudi in 2013, and I went to London to pursue, another master's degree in strategy and leadership from London Business School, and also another diploma from Oxford, and then went into psychology. And then I felt that I'm ready for a career transition. So hopefully what I'm going to tell you today is actually from first-hand experience about how I handled it. So let's see now with your help how to navigate these slides. But before I do that, I just want to tell you that there are questions that usually we should ask before we delve into the strategy of changing jobs or career change. Is first, why we are doing it, what are the reasons for it, and how frequent it is, for our age groups, maybe 40s and 50s. studies show that almost 50% of executives or middle managers and in the age of 40 to 50 start thinking seriously about some kind of transition. Of course, there are other reasons why we do that, maybe for financial incentives, maybe to just advance our career, but sometimes it's more drastic, sometimes it's more fundamental. And also some other times it's for organizational changes, mergers and acquisitions, or a new management comes in. So it's good to know why you are pursuing, a career change. And it's frequent, actually. Middle managers, usually they have a tenure of 3 to 5 years. Executive maybe a little bit longer, for 5 to 10 years. And the other thing also, that when we contemplate changing our job, there are three things that are very serious and that it is good to consider. The first one is that sometimes we overestimate our experience and our abilities. This is what we call in psychology the Dunning-Kruger effect. So maybe we overestimate our experience and our abilities, but also the reverse is true. Sometimes we underestimate our experience and abilities. So just to tell you that if you want to navigate properly, what you are going to do next, perhaps a friend, another friend, or maybe a coach can help you understand, or maybe do a gap analysis of your strengths, whether they are technical skills or soft skills, and your goal and your career aspirations before you embark into the change. And the second thing, the third one that we don't know about, and that I give through the courses that we give at OSB for undergrads and grads and also executives, is actually that we don't know our passion and we haven't set our purpose in life. So there is a level of ignorance where we don't know really our passion and our calling. And this is like if you have studied the Ikigai, it's like the purpose in life. And this ignorance, I call it a potentiality blind spot. We don't know really our strength. And if somebody is able to capture what is the unique contribution that we could effect, this would be a great thing to do. So if we take these three into consideration, then we are able to navigate the transition and we are able to go into the strategies that I'm going to elaborate on these slides. So the next slide, please. So the first thing, actually, what is essential is to do a self-assessment, as we, avoided it a little bit. Without doing a self-assessment of your skills, your abilities, also your passion and your interests, which usually we do, we have to be cautious when we take major decisions in our life to change a career. So there's a scope of change, and we need to do a proper self-assessment. Next. Now, this self-assessment that is usually coupled with psychometric testing, and for executives, there are extensive, good, psychometric tests that I could recommend to you later that really show on different dimensions and in different areas what are your strengths, your weaknesses, and also your personality and your liking. So it's very important. But besides knowing yourself, you need to know the market and you need to know the job market. Now, in Saudi Arabia, currently, you have a VUCA world, a really volatile, changing world, uncertain, with a lot of complexity that is getting more and more, that you are competing with locals or maybe with expats from other countries. So you have to do a little bit of an industry search and then see from the gap analysis what you need to develop. And my experience with graduate students that come for a special master's or MBA at AUB is that a lot of the time they haven't done a proper homework to know yourself, to know themselves, or to know the job market. So I recommend that you really do readings from different, newspapers, magazines, and there are a lot of online resources that will give you good information about the job market. Now, next. Of course, the third step is actually networking. And networking, now you are being part of the alumni group, the chapter in Riyadh, you are networking well with the activities that you are engaged in. It's a very important platform to know each other, to help each other, and also that these people that they can connect you to third parties that would suit your purpose. So I cannot really overemphasize the importance of networking. for an executive and for a person that wants to promote themselves in the future. And there are different types of things that you do to leverage, your network and develop it. The fourth point next, I'm going a little bit quickly because I would like to engage you in questions later on. The other point is update your brand. So as you know yourself and you know your image, now you have to perhaps work on your resume, your LinkedIn profile, and also your other social media things and your digital print, because you have done so many projects in your life, you have so many achievements that you are proud of, that you can highlight. And my experience is that I never had a raise in my job or a successful transition without really being able to articulate my achievements, not only in my previous job, but in even previous jobs. And I encourage our students at AUB to even talk about their extracurricular activities, their hobbies that they do, and they succeed in very well. Because, a person that succeeds, let's say, in sports or in art or in whatever, there is a set of transferable skills that show that this person has what it takes to succeed. They might have, the sensitivity to things, persistence, sometimes competition, depending upon which sport you are like in, and it tells a lot about what you are engaged in, whether you can make it to higher and higher levels. And updating your brand, it means being present on social media, being present in networking events, and also introducing yourself better. And here there's a pitfall that sometimes people are quick. So when they network, they just want an immediate return, or they do it with, like self-interest too fast. What you really is to enjoy, talking to others, enjoy knowing them, knowing about them. And this interest in the other that we also do in some exercises in my course is to really make you pause and stop and enjoy the relationship, which eventually is going to bring fruits and whatever you are seeking. So it's not like networking to just, know a company in 5 minutes and then go and apply and then take the job. It's a matter of harnessing, developing, enhancing a relationship over time. And sooner or later, you will be having a network that is very good for you. And then you have number 5, strategic job searching. Another thing also that I found in students that they do not apply themselves to search properly for jobs. And you need to target. It's not like, haphazardly we send our CV everywhere and to any company, and you customize every time your application depending upon the job. Because, each job you're applying for, it has a job description. So I recommend to the students usually to read it through to see the keywords that are being used for every task that is being there, and also to know about the company culture and what they are aiming to do. And then a little bit change their CV to reflect these points that are important to the firm. And I found that it works very well because the person is well prepared, and on their CV, and then they target the companies that are proper. So the sixth point, of course, there are 10 points, so I will not really make it too long. The sixth point is be prepared for challenges and for rejection. Um, when you are doing a transition, there is a moment where you are leaving the old and you haven't got the new yet. So there is like a transition of emptiness and of nothingness that you need to navigate. And one of the things that helped me do it in a way, in a relatively smooth way, was actually learning a little bit about psychology, learning a little bit about my feelings, about emotional intelligence, which is actually something very important to do. And I encourage you to invest a little bit about navigating the stress levels, the uncertainty, the frustration that might come in the transition, and the rejection that might, and the resilience that if you have it, you can benefit from. And what is resilience? It's just falling and standing again. And people tell me there is a current, at AUB. I mean, we are all colleagues. They say, "What is this resilience?" They are against the word, and they believe, that in Lebanon we have all of these problems because we are too resilient. Like there is no learning from falling down, and I partially agree with them. What is good is that if we fail, we have to learn and then stand up. But falling, learning, and standing up is actually the right formula to be resilient. And you have to do it But how many times do we want to do it? Perhaps some of you do not accept rejection more than once or twice. Believe me, if you are ready to fail and raise yourself 100 times, you will get what you want. Now, I found that people just, let go and surrender because they believe if they don't succeed, if you know what you want, if you are passionate about what you are seeking, resilience is really something very important, especially if you are learning from it. And then you have seeking support. Here we talked about the mentorship, we're talking about your colleagues. And when you are in a change, you will have maybe different kinds of friends. Some of them would tell you, oh, why you are doing it, go back to your comfort zone. Yeah. So be careful from this piece of advice to tell you to go back to your comfort zone. Eventually, when you started the process of finding a new career, you already went out from your comfort zone and you are ready for the challenge and you are courageous enough. And honestly, I encourage you, this is your life and you have to make from it whatever you feel you have to do to make from it. So seek support from people that support you, and coaches. Sometimes professional help also would be good, and support groups. The alumni is a great support group and you have so many good people there that help and interhelp each other. And ninth thing is experiment and iterate. And this is something very important. I'm sure if you are in innovation or in any change management, sometimes you have to create a small experiment. You have to try something for a while, experiment it before you really put all your commitment in it. So be ready to learn, be ready to experiment, not only in thinking, but in doing something. And when I came back from London, and I did not feel like I want to go back to the corporate world, where I was the CEO of, Porsche and the VW Group with that Safe Group in Saudi. I I went to an NGO and I started being an organization development director. So it's a little bit less than my job, but it gave me satisfaction because I saw how I can change a company and build capacity for an NGO that was doing a lot of good to the country. And what I did, I developed a quality management system and 12 ISO certificates, among other changes that we did put to policies and procedures in the firm. And the NGO became like internationally certified to actually outsource some of its work to other NGOs or work with other NGOs to really supervise them. So I was when they developed like a monitoring and evaluation system. So there's a lot to do and a lot to help. And it gave me more satisfaction than the hundreds of thousands that I was getting in Saudi or anywhere. It's not like, now, of course, I'm not asking everybody to do that, but for me, it was rewarding. And when I went after that to teaching and also to helping young generations in Lebanon develop their capacities, their confidence, their passion for to succeed, and I also it gives me tremendous joy. But I'm at an age that I truly am not, running after the position nor after the money. Although we have lost a lot because of the crisis in Lebanon, but we went out of it. And that's why we reached the point 10, which is very important. Point 10 is about practicing self-care. And when you are in the midst of change, it's good to take care of yourself in terms of food, in terms of entertainment, in terms of sleep, in terms of sports and activity, and in terms of be surrounded by good friends. And taking care of yourself is very important. Sometimes meditating or going on a walk, in the morning, as I do in Romania where I'm living. For me, the 45 to 1 hour walk every day in the morning gives me utmost energy and clarity of mind that makes me really clear all day long. So many things are sorted out during this walk. So when I arrive at work, I have so many solutions to problems and also without thinking about them, they happen spontaneously. So by taking care of yourself, you become more creative. You become also a better problem solver, believe it or not. And dwelling too much on your issues and your problems, not being able to separate yourself from them, would make you run in circles and not really find good solutions. So this is the last point. And then maybe as a summary, the last one is a career transition is a journey filled with learning and growth. So consider it as such. Do not consider that the outcome is actually the second job. No, is how to grow and how to learn. And I'm sure you're familiar with Maslow's hierarchy of needs. Actually, you are at a level of having fulfilled the basic needs, maybe also the needs for association and for family and ties. You are now ready for self-actualization or doing something big. And especially now in a country like Saudi Arabia, where they have a beautiful vision 2030, and that you are able to contribute to it. So truly believe in yourself, believe that you are doing something good to yourself, to your family, to your country, and also to the country you are in, that is giving you so much. And with this positive mind and this association that you're having with each other, I'm sure you can reach whatever you can reach. So thank you very much, and we can take later on, depending upon Gracia and Yahya, when are the questions be ready.
Mr. David, thank you so much for your valuable input. I think one of your slides, the last slide, would be an invitation for another seminar on wellness that we'd like you to be on as well. We will definitely be leaving the corner for community member questions till the end. Allow me now to introduce our second guest speaker, Mr. Muhammad Yamoud. Muhammad has had 12 years of working experience in the business world. Currently, he holds a position of business manager at Michael Page, Saudi Arabia, where he specializes in recruiting for C-suite positions across various functions. His extensive recruitment expertise derives from his tenure as the head of advisory and client relations at RASD, focusing on executive search. Notably, Muhammad has contributed to a team that successfully placed C-suite executives within prominent family groups and semi-government entities in Saudi Arabia. Muhammad, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Gracia, first of all, and thank you for the WAAAUB Riyadh chapter for inviting me into this inaugural seminar. To begin with, what I will be presenting or discussing today is actually from a recruiter's perspective, specifically when it comes to executives, and what are some tips that would actually help executives land the jobs that they are applying for or that they were hunted for. Let me just share my presentation. Now, to begin with, like I said, just what are the factors that would help executives stand out in the Saudi Arabian market? As an introduction, I'm currently a business manager within the Michael Page Saudi Arabia team. Page Group is a global recruitment group, basically that specializes across different functions. We have more than 40 plus years of recruitment experience and 142 offices globally within a network of 39 countries. At the moment, when it comes to our Middle Eastern operations, we have 2 offices, and our Saudi Arabia office is actually in its final stages, and hopefully we should be launching it soon. Our team is comprised of more than 60 individuals, of which 35 are solely dedicated to Saudi Arabia, obviously due to the ambitious Vision 2030 and all the projects that have been launched within Saudi Arabia. We've been actually in the market within the Middle East for the past 16 plus years. Now, when it comes to Saudi Arabia specifically, obviously within the launch of Vision 2030, there have been a lot of industries that have come to light as a result. With one of them being tourism, which of course would cascade down into real estate and construction, aviation, and so on, in addition to the industrial sector with the industrial/AI sector, to be more specific, with the launch of Alat, which is an industrial/AI giga project. Additionally, we will be going through briefly what would the role of executives be within the realization of the Vision 2030. specifically how they would be contributing to the economy. As everyone knows, Saudi Arabia traditionally has had an oil-based economy, and at the moment they are trying to diversify this economy and shift away from oil. Now, how we see it at the moment is that Saudi Arabia is this big machine, and executives are actually main cogs within that machine. With the partnerships that have been happening between the private sector and the public sector, it is evident that executives play a very big role in shaping and realizing actually the Vision 2030. Now, what we would be focusing on more in this presentation today is actually what are the strategies that will make executives more visible and attractive to headhunters in the Saudi market. To begin with, as a headhunter, I would say that in a lot of assignments that we receive and we work on, generally speaking, we do target, or the most attractive candidates for us are what we call passive candidates. What does a passive candidate mean? It means that this candidate is comfortable with where they are at the moment. They are already achieving and are not looking to change jobs. Why is this person attractive? Because I wouldn't say it's because they are in their comfort zone, but because generally speaking, like Mr. Mehta said, sometimes generally when an executive wants to leave, it's either because they are unhappy, or because with their day-to-day job, or because they're bored, or because they are seeking salary increase, and so on. These are not necessarily bad things, but when an executive is achieving where they are and they have a very good reputation in the market, this is where our job as headhunters, we turn into like what I would like to call as salespeople, if you want, because just like an executive applies for a job, it is also our duty to also sell the job for an executive. Now, what do we look for? We look for professional expertise. Today, with the ceiling set so high, and the vision being something that is a lot of projects are being done for the first time in the history, not just in Saudi Arabia, but humanity. Taking NEOM, for example, the demand for skilled executive is very high, and this is something that we have been that is a challenge we are looking into, that we are looking at in the market. So we don't only focus on expertise that are in Saudi Arabia, but in a lot of instances, we also look overseas. Okay. Now, when it comes to professional expertise,
excuse me,
it is worth mentioning.
For interrupting you. If you can hear me, some of our viewers cannot manage to view your slides. If you can just enlarge them, thank you.
Yeah. Is it showing?
Yes,
so
I think
not
we can
really.
see your slides, but if you can just maximize them, thank you.
Okay, I cannot seem to know what the issue is. Is the problem still persisting?
It's good. Please proceed, Muhammad. It's good. Thank you.
Okay. So as I was saying, this is when it comes to professional experience. Professional experience, for example, if someone is, if an executive is currently in investments, for example, and we are looking for a CFO role, it wouldn't make sense for someone who is working in investments to apply for a CFO role, because even though they are related in some areas, but they are very different. So it's very important to understand what are the specific requirements of the role. Now, if we are working on a CEO role, it also matters to understand not just what the goals of the company are and who are the board members and what the short-term and long-term KPIs that would be for a CEO, but also it would also be worth to understand what the culture of the company is. And this brings me to my second point, which is the cultural fit. With transformation being at the center of what's happening in Saudi Arabia, this would definitely be cascaded down into every single company within the country. In order to keep up with Vision 2030, a lot of private companies and, of course, public companies had to go numerous transformation initiatives. And this is where, and at the front line of this transformation initiative would probably be the CEO. And now we're talking about not just from a P&L perspective, but also from a governance perspective. And we have all seen that within the past 5-6 years, governance has also been at the center of everything that's happening in Saudi Arabia. Additionally, when it comes to leadership style, and it's very important to understand that the traditional leadership style no longer applies. When we say traditional leadership style, it means that empowerment is something that has been sought after in the market. Additionally, providing guidance to other team members when it comes to the executive team, and of course their respective teams as well. Additionally, empathy is also at the center of this leadership style. No longer is it the CEO or a C-suite executive's role to actually be this harsh person traditionally, or this someone who is very demanding. But we're now shifting to a more humane aspect when it comes to leadership. Now, going into the next slide, like Mr. Matta mentioned, enhancing an executive's online presence is actually very essential. Interesting enough, I have some figures that I would like to share with everyone. So at the moment, Saudi Arabia has around 35.33 million social media users. And this amounts to almost 94.3% of the population. And this is a very big number. On average, each individual spends around 3 hours and 6 minutes on social media per day. Now, why am I saying that? Because actually Saudi Arabia is one of the top 10 countries when it comes to Twitter engagement, for example, and the majority of executives and even ministers in some time are active on LinkedIn. LinkedIn is the primary source of candidates. Even when it comes to executives. And sometimes there are candidates who are not on LinkedIn, but we will dive into that momentarily. Now, when it comes to LinkedIn specifically, it is with other team members, with other members of your network, share that the company has done, any new project that the company has won, etc. Just to, in case any headhunter is actually looking, or an executive is actually on the hunt for a specific C-suite member. Okay. Additionally, this would also increase the reach of the company and would work as if you want, a branding strategy, of course, or for the company. Okay. Now, when it comes to portraits, we highly advise specifically executives to have professional portraits, because at the end of the day, your LinkedIn profile or an executive or a headhunter is the first impression. And Trust me when I tell you, first impressions last. So this is when it comes to professional portraits. Active engagement, like I mentioned, commenting, sharing updates, sharing experiences, even sharing some articles. This is something that is highly encouraged, specifically when it comes to a job market like Saudi Arabia. Like I said, that is very active when it comes to social media and professional networks. Now, an essential part of being an executive, as Mr. Metta mentioned as well, is networking. Now, I do hear a lot of executives actually finding it hard to network within Saudi Arabia, and this is for different reasons. My first advice would be not to hesitate to put yourself out there. Believe in your skills, believe in what you are doing, and believe in what you are able to bring to the table. It can be something as small as a brief discussion with someone else within the industry. And like I said, this person might know someone else, this someone might know another person. So put yourself out there, attend networking events, attend industry events and conferences, engage with people, engage with speakers specifically, because generally speaking, speakers are the ones who are influencers, if you want, in the local market. For example, if there's a real estate conference, engaging with speakers is highly recommended. Third point is just like the group that we have now, the alumni and professional groups. Being part of an alumni, someone will definitely know someone. Specifically when it comes to Lebanese are known for being good networking individuals, so someone would definitely know someone and would probably be a good reference for you. Now, the last part would be tailoring your CV. So it is very, very important to be as detailed as possible when it comes to tailoring your CV, but not being over detailed. Now, what do I mean by that? When it comes to the details, okay, it's very good to mention what your day-to-day role looks like, what your day-to-day job looks like, what is the size of your team, of course, what company do you work for, how long you've been at the company. But it's also very important to add a section for achievements, because at the end of the day, when a company is looking for an executive, this person would be at the front lines. This person would be a decision maker, and they would more often than not be facing a problem. How you are able to portray yourself as a problem solver plays a very big role in whether you will be selected for an initial screening or not. Lastly, personal branding is also very important. Basically, understanding what are your skills, whether from a technical perspective or even from a leadership/humanitarian perspective. Because, like I mentioned, what is being asked in the market is not just technical skills, but it's also leadership skills. And understanding what your strengths are as a leader and how your leadership style would be able to influence the culture in the company that you would potentially join is very, very, very important. Lastly, I would like to mention something from a headhunter's perspective as well. Whenever you are engaging with a headhunter, I would highly advise you to also ask questions, because a career opportunity is a two-way street. Just like a company or a headhunter is evaluating you, you should be also evaluating whether this company fits your aspirations and whether the culture in that company fits your aspirations or not. I would like to end my presentation with this, and thank you everyone for listening. I will be sending my contact details in the comments. In case anyone has any questions, please also feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. I'll be more than happy to help whenever I can.
Thank you so much, Muhammad, for this valuable presentation. We really appreciate it. And thank you for suggesting and proposing to stay in touch with you. And we understand that you have another commitment and you have to leave us now. Thank you again.
Thank you so much. Have a great evening. Again, thank you so much for allowing me to be part of this, and hopefully we'll stay in contact. And looking forward to hearing from anyone.
Okay, I would like to introduce Mr. Chris Wilson, founder and global head of clients at Pareto People. Mr. Wilson is a graduate of Business and Communication from University of Liverpool, with 12 years in the Middle East, growing and leading teams, delivering world-class recruitment, assessment, and development services to the KSA market. Expert particularly in recruitment and assessment, he is directly handling high-level and confidential projects in KSA with various PIF entities and many leading national champions. Thank you so much, Mr. Chris, for being here. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to you all. Please bear with me. I've been quite sick the last week with a pretty nasty flu, so if I sound a bit like a Dalek, please do bear with me. Let me just try and share my screen. Okay, hopefully that's working. Is that showing okay?
No, actually, if you don't mind, when you share, if you can click directly on the window and the presentation, please, not the entire screen. If you can try again.
Okay. Is that better?
Still no. What I suggest is that I share my screen and share your presentation from here.
Okay, there may have been a few changes, but okay, let's try that. Okay, fantastic. So yeah, look, very quickly then, introduction, and thank you for the introduction. So yes, I'm Chris, head of client services and original founder of Pareto People. Proudly lived in the Middle East for the last 13 years and have been traveling to Saudi, doing lots of business there for that period of time. Second slide. Very quick overview to who Pareto People are. We're a consulting firm. We have expertise in recruitment, assessment, and development. You'll see the three areas there. Founded in the Middle East, expanded internationally. We have offices in the UK, Australia, and we're looking at Riyadh and Houston, which will be our next two locations. So your topic for today is very broad, and we only have 15 minutes. So what I wanted to do was to pick something that I thought would be hopefully a bit of a ta-da moment, something that you could all take away and you'd all find useful for both your job hunting and your career development, of course. So I've selected the one area of our business that is often most misunderstood, and I think is really an important part of both your job hunting and your career development. On to the next slide, please. Could we switch to the next one? No, last one. One before that, sorry. So I wanted to talk to you about assessment, and assessment is a broad topic and something that scares people if they don't really understand what assessment really is. And an important subsect of what assessments are is psychometrics. And this is a big topic everywhere at the moment. I know in Saudi and everywhere else, everybody's talking about psychometrics and what they mean for particularly their job search. So we'll talk about psychometrics in job searching first. And the obvious question to ask initially is why are they used? So why are you sent psychometrics? And I'm sure a lot of you have been as part of your job search. So I often say that this is an easy answer to a complicated question. So companies are looking for ways to filter in and filter out people as quickly as possible and make the right hiring decision. As we all know, if you apply for a job in Saudi on LinkedIn these days, you'll be one of 300 or 400. So there's a logical reason why companies are now turning to these tools to sort of streamline processes. Get to know you in ways that interviews will not reveal. We've all been in interviews, and I know I've done thousands myself. There's such thing as people who are good at interviews and people who are not good at interviews. So psychometrics are a way for companies to find out a bit more about you other than having a one-to-one or a panel discussion. And the last one, and I say good companies here, good companies will use psychometrics to start to develop you from day one. And that's not overly common. It's becoming increasingly common. And why that's important, I will reveal later in the slide. So I wasn't going to show you the answers to the next questions, but given what we acknowledge that psychometrics are used for in recruitment, it's important to ask ourselves some questions, therefore. So what do psychometrics measure? They measure predominantly personality. And is there such thing as a good or a bad personality? There is not. Every human being has a different personality. We're all unique. That has good things, that has bad things, and everything else in between. So what psychometrics do not measure is behavior. And back to the points above there, what companies are really looking to find out when they're interviewing you is your behavior. So on the face of it, psychometrics are actually quite poor tools and often misused in recruitment because they are not measuring your behavior. They're measuring your personality, which of course, and I'll get to this as well, is a big driver towards the behavior that we show as human beings is driven, of course, largely by our personality. But the two things are different, and that's important. And the last question that we need to ask ourselves about psychometrics is, why do they exist? What are they designed for? And they are designed for professional development purposes, predominantly, not for recruitment purposes. And that's important to think about, and I'll come to why. Next slide, please. Okay, so if we acknowledge this, how can we prepare for these things? How can we have an advantage if you know that you're going to be one of many people going through a recruitment process where psychometrics are involved? How can you prepare for them? How can you give yourself a competitive edge? Well, the first thing you can do is not try and cheat them. You can't, and you don't need to, for the reasons mentioned before. These are personality measures, and there's no such thing as a bad personality. And if you think about the use of psychometrics in the right way, they can help you answer some of the most difficult, or what I sometimes call some of the poorest questions that companies will ask you when you're interviewing. So what are your strengths and weaknesses? What are you trying to improve? What's less positive about your personality? What would your peers say that they don't like about you? These types of questions that always come up in interviews that are tricky to answer. And often people levitate to poor answers. And I've put a couple of there. I work too hard. I need to have a better work-life balance, or I need to get an MBA. These are not developmental areas. I mean, look, anyone that works in the Middle East tends to work too hard. I work too hard. We're all doing too many hours. But this is not a soft skill professional development. So if you really take the time to understand your personality and engage with psychometrics, you can learn a lot about yourself that can help you answer those difficult questions in a very thorough, very professional, and very targeted way, in a way that most people wouldn't even think about. And it's important to know, and I'll give you an example of this, that all personality characteristics have pros and cons. A good example I often use is interpersonal sensitivity. So I, for example, have low levels of interpersonal sensitivity. Now, as a business leader, that has some advantages, predominantly being I'm not afraid to have difficult conversations. If something needs to be said to somebody and it's not necessarily a comfortable topic, that's okay with me. My personality dictates that I'm quite comfortable with those conversations. If you're a airline hostess, you're working on an aircraft in customer service, and you're working in the first class cabin and everybody's tired and they're stressed and they're under pressure, and you have low levels of interpersonal sensitivity, it's only a matter of time before these people will say, I think you should get your own drink, or I think you should get your own peanuts. Because these people tend not to be people pleasers. So there is examples in that case where differences in personality will make you more suitable to one job and another. But what it's really allowing you to do is to talk about something very genuinely and very openly, to say, look, Chris Wilson, this is me, I know who I am. I have low levels of interpersonal sensitivity. If I'm dealing with people in my team that are emotional or sensitive, I find that difficult. I find those people harder to manage and harder to deal with. I'm conscious of it, and I have to tell myself, Chris, you need to be more sensitive when you're talking to people like this. But it is a development area because it's a personality defect, if you like, or it's a challenge in my personality. And I'll come to that later as well. So my advice to you all is to use psychometrics. There's hundreds of them online. They'll tell you things about yourself that you may not already know, or you might know, or you might not yet accept. And the best way to test them, most people accept about 70% of their psychometric. You'll probably find that if you sat with your wife or your husband or your children or your parents and showed them your report, the bit that you deny, that 20-30%, they would say, that is 100% you. That's your personality. And this is where you get really rich learnings about yourself that can be really powerful and really help you in these interview situations. Next slide, please. So I'd like to show you an example of why psychometrics can be misinterpreted. So on the screen there, Hogan is a world-renowned provider of psychometric tools. We engage with them a lot. They're quite expensive, but they're quite good. And what you have there is a Hogan Leadership Challenge Report, which basically is a psychometric that helps leaders or people who are looking to go into leadership roles understand what goes wrong with their personality when they're tired and they're stressed and they're under pressure. Okay. Now, the average human being has on average, about 4 derailers. Okay. And as you can see on the screen, this person has 8 high-risk derailers. Okay. So you can see 8 long red lines, human nature being human nature. We're looking at that piece of documentation there, and most people on this call would say, I wouldn't hire that person, I would imagine. So I'm not going to take a survey. There's too many of you involved. But I would imagine, given the information I've just given you, most people on this call would say, yep, okay, there's a good reason not to hire that person. So that report is actually mine. And that was taken about 6-7 years ago. And I remember opening it up in front of my colleagues at the time thinking, oh my God, I'm a terrible person. I can't be a leader. What's wrong with me? And when this was debriefed, something very important came out of this learning for me. What that's actually showing you to the trained eye is I have a more complex personality than most human beings. So if I'm stressed and tired and under pressure, there's more different ways that I could react as opposed to somebody else. So I could be bold, mischievous, cautious, skeptical. All those behaviors I have within inside me as a person when I'm stressed, tired, under pressure. The only thing I'm highly unlikely to do when I'm stressed or tired and under pressure is be cautious. I'm not a cautious person. If somebody's looking to hire a cautious individual, I'm definitely not your hire. So that's what that would tell you. But I'd like to think if I met most of you in person and told you about myself and what I've done, I'm actually a nice person and hopefully quite hireable. So why does all this matter? Why are you telling us this, Chris? Why is this useful for us in our job search and our career development, which is the next slide? I will skip to the next one as well. So this is important because self-awareness is so critical to your career, your success, your personal life, everything. And Socrates, I'm sure you've heard of, came up with this phrase a long, long time ago, know thyself. And he claimed, and some people believe this to be true, that if a human being went to the top of a mountain and sat there their entire life or for 20 years and did nothing but think about the question, who am I? At the end of that 20 years or lifetime, they wouldn't really fully understand the answer to the question. Self-awareness is something that's extremely powerful. And if you can improve this about yourself, you will succeed in many different ways and for many different reasons, which I'll skip to the next slide and explain to you in a bit more detail. And if you don't believe me, I ask everybody to think about the most successful people you know, or think about the people you look up to. I guarantee you these are the people, they're humble and they're able to look themselves in the mirror and they're able to really acknowledge who they are. For better or for worse, this is who I am. And they're able to adapt their behavior in spite of their personality. So over time, as you mature and you learn more and more and more things about yourself, your behavior, when you're a child, your behavior and your personality are very, very closely matched, or as adolescents as well. And the more life experience you get and the better you understand yourself, your personality doesn't change. 99% of psychologists agree on this, but your behavior deviates, your behavior changes, and it changes from time to time, changes on the circumstances because you're able to control your personality better. And if you're really thinking about career development and developing yourself, other than getting another degree, getting more years of experience, knowing who you are and where you are now is the only logical place to start if you're thinking about improving yourself and your career. Self-aware people make better decisions, they're better leaders, they have higher capacity than others to develop and improve from where they are. And Pareto people's advice to all of our clients, if you were to pick one thing that should make you hire someone or not hire someone, hire self-aware people. Self-aware people, more often than not, deliver better results than people who lack self-awareness. And the last point, capability-based rather than experience-based hiring is coming. This is the future, in my opinion, and I'm already seeing this happening. And for those graduates on this call, that's a really good thing for you. And what I think that means is that in the future, you will find more and more young people in more and more senior positions, irrelevant of the years of experience that they have had. I started a business at 28 years old. The reason why, one of the many reasons I started a business at 28 years old is the multinational I was working for and running the Middle East for at the time said I was too young to become a director. So I said, okay, I'll go and do it for myself and see if that's possible. And I advise you all to think about doing the same. So my summary, and sorry, I'm terrible with tech. I'm at the age where tech's just beyond me. Sorry, one more thing. Yes. I want you all to think about this. This is so important. If we accept that all personalities are different, and they are, how can it be, and it is, that we all have, every single person on this call has the same personality risk factor when it comes to our work and our outside work relationships? So before I give you the answer, I'll just repeat it because I want people to really digest that and think about it. If we accept that all personalities are the same, how can it be that we all have the same personality weakness or risk factor? And the answer is the most common or the biggest risk with all our personalities, all of us, is we overplay our strengths. So if you think back to the example I gave earlier of interpersonal sensitivity, I have low levels of interpersonal sensitivity. I know that has a lot of advantages for my job. I have to have difficult conversations with people I work with customers, with tax authorities, with ministries. I have to have difficult conversations all the time. That's part of my job. And I'm comfortable with that. The problem is I'm in difficult conversation mode all the time because I'm comfortable with it. And when I have to have an emotional conversation and a sensitive conversation, the risk for me all the time is that I'm still in this difficult conversation mode and I haven't adapted my behavior to the situation that I am now in because I'm not comfortable with it. I'm not comfortable in that situation. So it's overplaying your strength. Think about people who are introvert, extrovert. Okay, everyone says there's good things about introvert and extrovert. There's pros and cons to both, of course. So it's not that an introvert is bad. It's just that an introvert sometimes stays there and they need to drag themselves out of their comfort zone and have extrovert tendencies from time to time. And that's not easy. So they overplay their strength, right? And they tend to have good levels of attention to detail. They're good team players, all of these things, but they overplay that strength continuously. So that's something I want you all to think about. Maybe we could just skip to slide 13. Okay, so the summary, and I hope I haven't overran. Psychometrics, I'm sure you're all aware of this. They're an increasing part of your job hunting, your career development, and it's only going to grow. I'm a little skeptical about the way that some companies use them, and I think they are being misused, but I think this will be something that will be corrected over a period of time, but they will be a part of your career and your work life. Become more self-aware. It'll make you more successful in all aspects of your life. It'll improve your relationships. I think my wife likes me the more I get self-aware, and she loves reading my psychometrics and picking holes in my personality. She loves doing this. But it helps. These things really help in your life. And don't overplay your strengths. They will risk becoming your weaknesses. So on that note, I hope you found that useful. Thank you very much. My email address is there on the last slide. I love doing these things to help people out. People have helped me out a lot in this region. Getting to where I've got to has not been easy. It's been a difficult path, and I know the journey that a lot of you are going on. And I'll go out of my way to help people. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Chris, for this insightful presentation. And I must agree with you. I believe in this time and age, Socrates never goes wrong. So I'm sure some of our community members have some questions for you at the end of this presentation. We come now to the last, but not least, esteemed speaker, Dr. Mark Nahas, a dear friend and a colleague in family medicine. Mark graduated from Johns Hopkins University with an MBA in healthcare management in 2013, followed by his specialty in family medicine at the American University of Beirut, and joined Riyadh since 2021 as a consultant in family medicine at Sulaiman Al Faqih Hospital and a current deputy CMO. Mark, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Gracia. Can you see my presentation?
It's clear. If you'd like to enlarge it.
Yeah, I just did now. Is it fine?
You can go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, Gracia, for the introduction. Thank you, Yahya. Thank you all. I'll be focusing during my presentation on the healthcare part of the job seeking and job opportunities, considering my background as a doctor and my experience as a deputy chief medical officer. So let's start with the prospects of Riyadh and healthcare in general. So I can easily say that healthcare demand is growing and will grow in Riyadh and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia in general. This slide shows you a little bit where is it going and why. So the healthcare demand will increase for many reasons. First of all, the population is growing. KSA's population is by 2030, it's estimated to reach 42 million, and Riyadh specifically estimated to reach 10.7 million. Add to that the rising prevalence of non-communicable diseases. This will also require more healthcare, more services. But in my opinion, the most important factor is the current policy and structural changes that's happening within the Vision 2030 when it comes to healthcare. So for those who don't know, there's a trend and there is a vision and there's a strategy to increase the private sector participation in healthcare and to privatize some, but not all, even MOH hospitals, like
Sorry,
Ministry of
doctor.
Health.
Sorry to interrupt.
Yeah.
We can only see the first slide. Can you please try to move the slides?
Yeah, I haven't moved. I'm still on the first slide.
Oh, okay. Sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah. So as I was saying, the private sector participation in healthcare is increasing. But most importantly, the health insurance penetration is also increasing. So part of the vision is to increase the number of insured people, even those who work in the public sector. So all this will lead to an increase in healthcare demand. This is a snapshot of the current status of Riyadh region only as it is right now. So in summary, the Ministry of Health have 49 hospitals, which is equivalent to around 8,500 beds. The other governmental sector have 16 hospitals, averaging around 5,300 beds. The private sector has 41 hospitals with around 5,000 beds. Some totaling 106 hospitals with around 20,000 beds. Now, why am I saying this? The current ratio of beds to 1,000 population in Riyadh is 2.27 bed, while the national average is 2.25 per 1,000 bed, which is still lower than the world average of 2.7 beds to 1,000 population. Now, the interesting part is that it is estimated that by 2035, like in 10 years, 11 years, Riyadh would need an additional 10,000 beds to serve and to cater the growth in population and the healthcare needs. So there is demand, there is opportunity, and more hospitals are needed in the future. This slide is from the WHO, which shows you the health expenditure profile in Saudi Arabia.
Sorry, doctor, to interrupt again, but we are still blocked on the first slide. Would you like me to share your presentation?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you, Yahya. Can you go to the next slide? Yeah. So this slide shows you from the WHO, it shows you the health expenditure profile of Saudi Arabia. So Saudi Arabia spends like 5.7% of GDP on healthcare spending alone. And per capita, it's equivalent to $1,147, most of which, like 67%, comes from the public sector. So the public sector is still the biggest payer of this bill. Yahya, can you go to the next slide? This is also from WHO. It shows you that richer countries spend more on health. So the higher the GDP per capita, the higher is the health spending per capita. However, not necessarily as a share of GDP. So some countries have a higher GDP per capita, but in terms of healthcare spending, it's not necessarily correlating proportionally with the GDP per capita. Next, please. Now, how much a government spends from its budget on healthcare is a purely political choice. In the case of Saudi Arabia, the government spends around 10% of its annual budget on purely on healthcare. So, for example, Germany or Japan, it goes up to 20-25%. Next, please. So I'd like to share with you some differences and some pros and cons when it comes to the employment format of a doctor. And now I'm talking about doctors. So I come from Lebanon. I'm an AUB graduate. In Lebanon, the medical field is a liberal field. It's a liberal profession. So I don't have a boss. I don't have a salary. I can't be fired. I don't have a retirement age. It's purely liberal. When I came here to Saudi Arabia, the model is different. Doctors here are employees, which has some benefits like stability in income, but also it has some disadvantages. Like you have a punch in, punch out. You have a boss. You can be fired. You have to apply for annual leave. You have to abide by all the rules of an employee. So I found it quite challenging at the beginning. And I wanted to share with you, the difference from someone who comes from Lebanon, where medicine is a liberal profession. I found this quite challenging. Next, please. Challenges during COVID. As you know, doctors faced a lot of burnout during COVID. The pressure was huge. Back to the previous presentations, and mainly David's presentation about shifting career, a lot of doctors actually, because of burnout, thought of or actually did change careers. That's not without mentioning the increased risk on the personal risk on one's life during COVID. And here in the region, in Saudi Arabia, maybe not in Lebanon, the salary cuts, because the COVID section obviously was booming and busy, but the other sections were not working. So overall, there were some salary cuts in Saudi Arabia for doctors. Next, please. So what do we look for while hiring a doctor? Because I've been hiring, because Faqih is maybe the oldest private hospital in the kingdom, but the branch of Riyadh is new. So we are like a startup in Riyadh, a branch of a very well-known name. So we hired more than 200 doctors. So I can tell you out of experience what we look for while hiring doctors. Definitely diplomas and boards like Arab board, Jordanian board, American board, Canadian board. These are always important, but most importantly is the experience, specifically Saudi experience. And I'm sorry, Chris, but here experience still is more, in my opinion, important when it comes to doctors compared to capabilities. Ease of Iqama transfer, that's a big, topic. As you know, or you don't know, so I'm telling you, even doctors in Saudi Arabia need to have a sponsor. So the kafala system, and without the approval of the sponsor, we cannot move jobs, even if we have a better offer. So technically, without a transferable Iqama, you can't change jobs. And actually, we ask for it when hiring a doctor. Languages spoken, it's quite important. Arabic speaking doctor is always, I mean, more attractive because of the local population. Not everyone is fluent in English, so languages spoken are very important. Next slide, please. Future prospects are very promising when it comes to healthcare. As I said, the population is growing, the healthcare demands are growing, competition among hospitals is growing. A lot of non-healthcare groups, like huge family businesses, are moving into healthcare. I can name few: Al Ajlan, Al Rashhi. They're all going into healthcare. So this will create more jobs, more opportunities for healthcare workers, and also the Vision 2030, as I said. And Gracia, primarily, I'm addressing to you because you're a family doctor. The Vision 2030 focuses on primary care. So soon, the citizens will have, and residents will have to go through a primary care or family doctors first before going to specialists. So this will create more opportunities specifically for family doctors. I want to end my presentation with the premium residency because, as you might have heard, one of the arms of to be eligible to apply for premium residency is a healthcare worker. So one of the tracks to apply for premium residency is healthcare, being a healthcare worker, doctor or a nurse above a certain salary, like 35,000 riyal. You are eligible to apply for premium residency. Why is this important? Because you will be out of the kafala system and you won't need a sponsor anymore. So doctors will be free to move around, get new job offers without the approval of their sponsors. And this is very important. It's even a game changer for hospitals and for recruitment of doctors and healthcare workers in general. With that, I would be ending my presentation and leave the floor for any questions. Thank you. Thank you all.
Thank you, Dr. Nahas, for this valuable presentation that was tailored for the doctors present in our alumni body. Thank you so much. Okay. So thank you for the 4 speakers. The next section of our presentation will be actually our pre-webinar survey results. We have previously shared a survey with the alumni body, and we have received 250 responses. The aim of this section is to give you a real-time insights and more visibility on what we are going through as an alumni body when it comes to the Saudi job market. So we have asked 10 questions. The first question is, how would you rate the job market in Saudi Arabia for your profession? 42% ranked it as average, 34% difficult, 14% easy, 7% very difficult, and 2% very easy. The second question, have you found it challenging to secure employment opportunities in Saudi Arabia? 42% answered somehow, 38% answered yes, and 20% answered no. How did you land your current job in Saudi Arabia? This is a very important slide, and we were surprised actually to see that 64% have landed their jobs in Saudi Arabia by using referrals and network, followed by 9% that used LinkedIn jobs, 9% relocation from other countries with the same company, 7% were recruited by headhunters, 6% applied on company websites, 2% used online job boards excluding LinkedIn, 2% recruitment agencies in KSA, and 1% other, and 0% used recruitment agencies in UAE. Question 4, what factor do you consider most important when evaluating job offers in Saudi Arabia? 38%, the majority answered salary and benefits package, 20% job stability and growth, 16% company professional environment, 15% flexibility and working conditions, 11% answered work and life balance. What aspect of working in Saudi Arabia do you find most challenging? 36% answered finding opportunities that match my skills and experience, 33% networking effectively in the local job market, 18% navigating visa and work permit requirements, 13% answered understanding and coping with cultural norms and workplace etiquette. Question 6, which industries do you believe offer the most promising career prospects in Saudi Arabia? The majority answered consultancy with 53%, followed by technology, oil and gas, hospitality and tourism, healthcare, finance, real estate and construction, and education. How often do you utilize online job platforms or recruitment websites in your job search? 31% answered usually, and then followed by sometimes, always, rarely, and never. How often do you utilize your network in your job search? The majority answered usually. Have you pursued further education or training to enhance your career prospect in Saudi Arabia? 36% answered yes, they have used vocational trainings or certifications, and also 36% they have not done it yet. 26% used formal education like degree and diplomas, and only 2% they have done training with an HR specialist, career mentor, or HR consultant. Finally, how would you rate the availability of networking opportunities for job seekers in Saudi Arabia? 47% answered neither easy nor difficult, 35% difficult, 13% easy, and 5% very difficult. So thank you. We have reached now our live Q&A session. You are free to ask any question you would like to the speakers. Okay, you can either raise your hand or directly ask by turning off the microphone, turning on the microphone. Any questions? All is clear? Maybe let's see the chat. Okay. So we still have some time. What we will do is that we will go and address the pre-webinar questions that we have received from the alumni body. The first question, who of you can be contacted for career counseling to guide alumni to other jobs or other career paths in Saudi Arabia? Already Mr. Yamut suggested this. Okay, what about the other speakers?
Yeah, I mean, I would like to pitch in and talk about the graduate talent fair that is happening at Olayan School of Business on May 18, where for the first time we are having jobs for senior jobs that we are getting from Bahrain, from Kuwait in particular. And we don't mind having opportunities, but we need to have a reach out and a strategy for that. So I look forward to working with the alumni chapter in Riyadh to really develop this further as well and give our alumni also the possibility of looking at the opportunities that are coming our way besides the headhunter. And I can take it with you, Yahya, after our meeting. Tomorrow we can talk about it and what are the opportunities there.
Sounds good. Thank you, Mr. Metta. Anyone else would like to answer this question? Okay. Are there any restrictions on the recruitment of Lebanese nationals at PIF or the Giga projects?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Wilson. Question number 3, considering the shift in the markets, what is the recommended city to work in Riyadh or Dubai?
Both.
Okay. We have a question from on the chat box. From Crystal? What are your thoughts on the following? There is so much attraction to being more talented to KSA because of Vision 2030, although it seems that it is very difficult to relocate finding a job sponsor. Thoughts on why is that?
I'm not sure I totally understand the question, but look, I mean, Saudi is it's a very competitive recruitment market at the moment, right? I mean, there's obviously the nationalization factor, and from an expat perspective, I think most people on the call here are expats, of course, myself included. It's known not just in the region but all over the world that Saudi is, it's one of the most buoyant recruitment markets in the world. Salaries are way higher in Saudi than they are almost anywhere else on earth at the moment as well. So I think the challenges that people are facing in Saudi is, particularly from a graduate perspective, is it's very competitive, and a lot of the demand for the Giga project and Vision 2030, they're looking for people who are already at a certain level and have certain experience on certain projects and doing certain things that take a bit of time to learn, I guess. So but I do think that long term there'll be an increase further of roles for expats in Saudi, and this might be controversial to say. I also think that nationalization will be relaxed. I think you'll see a relaxation of nationalization rules, which will give more opportunities for expats as well.
Is this an opinion, Mr. Wilson, or you have credible information about this?
Opinion. Yeah, that's an opinion. I have to say that. That's an opinion. That's an opinion.
Okay. Thank you for your answer. Another question on the chat box. What is the role of online businesses in KSA? Is it lucrative to consider?
I'm not sure if Mark or David have a comment there. I don't know too much about that, to be honest, to have a credible comment.
Yeah, I don't either.
Maybe this takes us to another similar question where they are asking about how can you legally work in Saudi Arabia as an expat freelancer?
Not easily. I'd say if you're, freelance, you get a lot of ready-made, freelance visas and freelance working from Dubai compared to Riyadh is significantly easier. So you would find a lot of digital nomads and freelancers and people who run, I guess, online businesses like that as independents. Most of those in the region, unless they're Saudis, will be based in Dubai, really.
One other thing is that, you know, I have a little experience in there that Saudi companies, especially if they are public, they do not work with individuals, consultants, they work with companies. So a person has to belong to a company in order to do whatever they need to do and to be compensated for that. So free-floating freelancers, I don't think it's a norm, especially for big and public companies.
Very clear. Thank you. Another question from alumni Asim Shahal for the speakers. How can Mr. Metta, Mr. Yamut, and Mr. Wilson be contacted for consultation about exploring career path possibilities? How can each one of them guide the person?
My email address is there before. I'm happy to write it in here as well. I'll do that now.
Yeah, I mean, also I'm at OSB Career Management Services, dm64 at aub.edu.lb. You're welcome. We did, I helped a couple of executives that were relocating from Greece to Saudi at some stage. And also I have other cases. I'm not doing much of executive help, but we are gearing up towards being able to help the alumni much better. I'm working with Selma as well on this May event. And last year we did something very important. We called it Quest for Talent, because we believe that we need to move away from just knowledge based, but to go more skill based and even talent based, where there's something that the person is passionate about and they differentiate themselves in a sustainable way. And we did a big conference about, you know, how AI is changing the different industries and the different functions. And this year we're going to have also another event. And in this event, actually, we have a lot of HR, authorities that come from Dubai, from, you know, from Europe, from everywhere. And we have a list of these people that helped also the academy, you know, the academy to develop a little bit better idea of what is at stake and what is needed. And there were also the business community that networked with them. So we're going to do it this year, and we're going to work with you closely for you to benefit and to attend either online, virtual, or visit us on campus.
Lovely, lovely, Mr. Metta. Can we have your email address again so we can add it to the chat?
Yes, DM, like Dawood Metta or David Metta,
Yeah.
64. It gives you a little bit my age, at aub.edu.lb. aub.edu.lb. So DM64. And you're welcome, you know, and we do it, of course, you know, gratuitously. So, of course, if we are be overwhelmed, we'll ask for more resources, and I'm happy to do that. So do reach out, you know, we give you more, like psychological support. I like what Chris spoke about, you know, the assessment, psychometric testing that they're doing with Hogan. I contacted them, but there are also other providers, but definitely assessments are extremely important. And I encourage you to really give it a thought, try them out, because it's a way of knowing more, much more about yourself, the self-awareness that Chris spoke about, and to have a developmental plan that is long-termish and that takes it easy on yourself, but develops really, you know, your whatever goals you have set, and makes you aware of the blind spots sometimes that we don't know about ourselves. And that's the purpose of the blind spot, of the psychometric testing as well.
Very clear. Thank you. Any other questions from the participants? Okay.
Oh, sorry, there's one question here that I can answer around the construction sector. We do a lot of, sorry, excuse me, everyone. We do a lot of work in the construction sector in Saudi. It's a booming sector. It's probably maybe alongside healthcare and IT, the booming sector in Saudi at the moment. The problem you'll face if you don't have the experience in that sector is they're looking to hire high-end individuals or Saudis. That's really where the focus on that market is. But look, the construction sector, if I was to go into one sector at the moment in Saudi Arabia and build up a career, it would probably be the construction one. The salaries that we've seen in that sector are really high.
Great, good to know. Thank you. Any other questions from the participants? Great. So thank you, Mr. Metta. Thank you, Mr. Wilson, Mr. Yamout, and Dr. Nahas for your important participation, and thank you for the alumni body to be here tonight. And this will be the start of many other webinars. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Yahya.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.